Welcome to the stage, Max Duran, Nick Foes, Nico Coluccio, and Buckley Kohlhoff.
All right. So I drew the short straw, and I get to follow Satya. But luckily, I've got friends with me. So my name is Max Duran. I am on the sales team here at Meter, and I'm fortunate enough to have a conversation with some of our customers today. So gentlemen, I'll let you introduce yourselves. Maybe Nick will start with you.
Yeah, I'm Nick. I'm the manager of enterprise systems and security at Reddit. We've been a Meter customer for 2-3 years.
You predate me.
Yeah.
I'm Nico. I do IT operations and new build deployments at Lyft, and I think we've been with Meter for close to a year now.
Yeah.
Buckley Kohlhoff. I'm SVP of IT for Nurix Therapeutics. Not a name like Reddit or Lyft. So we're biotech based out here in San Francisco. We focus on cancer and arthritis, and we run both labs and clinical trials.
We're just, where all of the cat pictures that Bob enabled to be uploaded ended up going.
There you go. There you go. So today what we're going to do is talk a little bit about their stories, their lived experience with Meter, and also talk about some of the real things. Networking is hard, and we know that, and our customers know that. But we like to think that our customers always have a voice with us. So Nico, we'll go to you first. Lyft operates dozens and dozens of locations in the US and Canada, now in Europe with the Free Now acquisition. What is it like managing so many different spaces? You got offices, you got retail, you got labs. Talk to us about what goes into all of those unique spaces.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. There's a lot of different requirements that go into them. Those spaces operate pretty much, they have their own kinds of requirements. Lyft Urban Solutions Lab is going to differ fundamentally from something like a Flex Drive Express site. And so what makes it really nice is, Meter is like a one-stop shop. We kind of get to interface with you guys. You give us everything we kind of need. One nice place makes it really easy.
Nick, we'll come to you. I think the vast majority of people in attendance are on your platform.
Right now, probably.
Yeah, well, hey, r/meter. Your employees are people that use your product, which is the network. How do you view those two worlds melding?
A lot of our using the network on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Yeah. We came to find Meter near the end of the pandemic and needed to come up with a solution for how we were going to deploy wireless networking back into the offices. We had gone 3 years basically having a bunch of idle equipment, and in the change to our security infrastructure, all of the actual push towards zero trust, we didn't need to have a very robust and secure network. In fact, we actually wanted a stable network where we didn't care about much of the traffic that was going on. We wanted to
coffee shop Wi-Fi.
Yeah, coffee shop Wi-Fi. And and very truthfully, the majority of our employees are connecting from their home networks. And so we wanted them to go in, not have to think about it, and be able to scale our IT operations presence. And Meter was a natural fit because we give it to you to worry about the actual connectivity, worry about the actual problems that we would normally have to employ 1 to 5 people to deal with, given the total number of offices that we have and footprint we have.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in the ISP side, the co-management side. We'll revisit that topic. Buckley, you just mentioned, you introduced what Nurix did to some of the folks who may not know. For those that don't know, you all just opened a beautiful campus down in Brisbane. It's 200,000 square feet. You've got 5, 6, 7 different functions. You got research. You got people working at desks. You got people in lab coats. What went into your thought process when you were thinking about designing a network for that diverse of a space?
I think the first thought was, I don't want to be doing networking on the weekend.
Me either.
But the facility we moved into is really, really nice. What happened is Johnson & Johnson built the facility out during COVID and then moved in for about 3 months and decided to leave. So we inhabited that space, went in there, and there was no network capability at all. So we quickly wanted to establish that. And I think was mentioned earlier, I think the simplicity starts to be more important than any of the other factors. We're not trying to host a lot of data servers ourselves and do a lot of internal networking. We want a simple network that the employees can conduct business on reliably. And that was a quick option that was presented with Meter, and the ability to manage that was really compelling for me.
Yep. Let's stay with you for a second, because you mentioned there was no networking equipment there. There was a deactivated DAS system.
That's true.
And we have since lit that building with Meter Cellular. How did you all decide which route to go when you were thinking about the experience of your users in that space?
Well, I think what was interesting is Johnson & Johnson, when they occupied that space, was focused on biologics, and we do a lot of chemistry. So we actually had to change a lot with the labs. And in that equation, we had to tear a lot of equipment out. And the whole idea of resetting up these DAS boxes and trying to get a subscription and try to work through all the carriers was like more than we wanted to mess with. And so knowing that we had a seamless experience that we could work with on Meter and getting Cellular set up, was, a huge advantage for us.
Yep. So, Nick, I think you mentioned this. You have been a customer. Reddit has been a customer longer than I've actually been an employee. So thank you for paving the way. Over that time, we've gone from supporting you on the network side to supporting you in certain spaces with Cellular. How have you viewed the maturation of the product and the diversity of the product down to two unique sets?
Yeah, and I think when we rolled it out, there was just a controller in the WAPs. We had no switches, which was a fun time in a couple of instances. But I think that it's the constant evolution has been very nice, and the ability to tap into these product sets when they make sense. For Cellular, our office in Santa Monica was the one where we first deployed that. And it's kind of like when the Wi-Fi works, nobody really complains, just down, everybody goes. It's an interesting thing with Cellular, because people generally, you either have service or you don't, and then you blame your carrier and you move on to it from there. We had dead zones that we weren't hearing about because it wasn't our problem. We weren't providing phones.
Right.
It's a strict BYO model. And we deployed Cellular, and people started to notice that there was service again in the office, which is nice. And they're little improvements for users. At the end of the day, their battery and their phone is higher than it was, a couple of weeks before. And so it was a good value add for us. It wasn't something that was absolutely critical to deploy, but it makes people happier with the service that we're getting and that we're able to provide.
Yep, makes sense. Nico, you don't have to throw names into the mix here, but what was your world like before Meter? How were you managing things? What did opening one of these new sites look like for you in terms of process, people involved, departments across Lyft?
Yeah, similar to your experiences, there's like lots of carriers, lots of ISPs. Interacting with them can be interesting, and you need to have a lot of people to kind of support that kind of like an operation, right?
Not to mention riser companies. Yeah.
So kind of being able to, Meter Connect, and being able to kind of go through all of that, see ISP options all in one place, not have to kind of get on the phone or go through the works of interviewing each one. Can you do this? Do you have this? X and Y. That makes it really easy, right? And then as far as like the manageability goes, that's a big win. Being able to do it all in the Meter dashboard is huge.
Yeah. Nick will come back around. We heard ISP, we heard riser, we heard design, installation, the co-management component. If you could identify one part of that, which one has been the most impactful for your team?
Probably the design more than anything else. I have a team of 5 people who are functionally working in the systems operations of IT, and we had one person who had experience deploying wireless networks, and it's more hobby at that point for them. They're not true network engineers, and to be able to engage Lance is in the back of the room over there, is the network engineer who worked with us on our first deployment. Have someone who actually has the expertise, understands all of the actual frequency tuning, understands how the product works and where best to deploy it, That was a skill set that would have been cost prohibitive for us to hire to use really probably 10 times a year at best. And so we were able to tap into that wealth of knowledge that you all already maintain.
Yeah. Yeah, Buckley, I'll come to you on that piece as well. I mean, I've met the members of your team. You have a team behind you for that space. Do you think that any of those individuals, though, had a breadth of experience in what Nick just talked about, designing? Now, yes, they can operate, but designing and building that network.
No, definitely not. And I think even on the operations side, I think it's a challenge, right? There's the level of detail that you need to really perfect some of the aspects of the network requires a high level of technical expertise, especially when you start talking, tweaking Wi-Fi signals to really get the best coverage as possible. It's our experience in the past has been working with vendors. It's maybe one time they can get it right and then something changes and nobody knows what happened and let's try to figure it out. Or it never gets right and everybody just starts pointing fingers as, it's probably Spider-Man meme. Yeah, right. So I think that has been totally a really good experience. And I think the team appreciates it too, because they're not getting this, this wall, right? Of like, we don't know what's going on. Sorry about you. Have a good day. I think we had a recent issue, right? And you guys really came to the table and helped us out, and everybody appreciated that. The quick response, understanding the issue, bringing a solution to the forefront, happened very quickly. I mean, I think it would never have happened in another circumstance.
Then to add on to that, the other thing that it's been able to do is it's let our support teams, who are more junior folks, actually engage in the troubleshooting process in a way that they wouldn't have before. They're able to engage with support. In some cases, these are the people who are physically staffing the help desks. They haven't had this experience or expertise. Right. They're able to jump in and actually start to troubleshoot and resolve these issues on it.
Yeah. Nico, I'll come to you on that topic. Lyft operates dozens of locations. You don't have dedicated IT resources at every single location. We have dashboard, we have command. How has your team been able to do that, been able to interface with your employees in a different way than you were before?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said dashboard, right? Yeah. The folks that are on site at those locations might not have a lot of the experience that you talk about when it comes to operating these networks, doing a lot of that kind of like technical troubleshooting. So the dashboard kind of gives the folks that are supporting those sites remotely a one-stop shop, seeing everything real-time, live. They can see things like connected clients, device status, up, down, ISP quality, WAN 0 quality, all of those things, right? They can make informed decisions. They can point the folks on site on certain issue resolutions, or they can escalate accordingly and then provide the required details that ultimately get problems fixed. So it's really nice.
Yep.
I would just add one thing. I don't think I went into the level of detail enough around the solution that you guys provided. We're talking not just, hey, you need to make a change here. You guys actually made changes to the underlying network operating system and pushed out a firmware update across our entire network platform, right? Within a matter of 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So
the team worked very hard on that one. Thank you to the QE team for testing it. But Buckley, let's actually go back to that. I think a lot of times these conferences are all about like the rah, the feel goods, and it can be a little bit of bullshit sometimes. How do you think that Meter has showed up for your team and given your team a voice inside of our organization?
Yeah, I think it started early on. We're fortunate, or maybe not. I don't know if this is always the case, but we happen to be our initial office was a mile away, and our new office is only a few miles. So, we were able to get gear the next day, right? And I think there was a lot of it was taking a risk for myself, right? To look at a company like Meter that's fairly new in the space. And then my team was looking at me like I was crazy for even considering that. I think going out to the site, and they felt it right away that you guys were there for them. And we walked away from that first conversation with like, yeah, these guys are really, they're showing up to the table. They're bringing the resources to every conversation. And it's been that way since then, rah side. Not saying we haven't had problems, right? Networks have problems, technical problems pop up. But I think at the end of the day, you guys have brought a level of confidence to the team that you're going to support them no matter what happens.
Yeah, networking is hard. I think everybody in this audience knows that. One thing, we're being recorded, so I'm going to put pressure on the product team here. In the next 6 months, if we could deliver one thing for each of you, what would that one thing be? Anybody can start. Take your time thinking about it. It's a big question. Pick on someone.
Okay. I think
Here we go.
that's
Go, Nico.
as you said product, so I'm thinking as far as Meter Connect goes, you mentioned we're in a couple of different locations, mostly United States, looking at Europe, going to be looking at maybe, in Canada, we've got some places. The other day, I tried to get ISP quotes for a location in Canada, and I couldn't quite get what I was looking for. But I think if anything, when that's the only thing that I can kind of come up with, I think you guys are doing a pretty good job.
We can pull those manually today, but we'll work on that automation. I mean, we'll pause on that question.
Yeah.
We just helped you all out in Europe in a couple locations.
Yeah. So we just opened a new office in Amsterdam. We are looking to sort of retrofit our London office.
Yep.
So that's also been a huge help. I think that we were able to very easily shift from US-centric deployments over to Europe and had the office up and running by FDOB. And the process as far as ISP selection was fairly seamless. I think that there's always growing pains when you're working into other markets, different regulations, different expectations as far as service between different countries. But that was fairly straightforward. We're looking at other international locations, and usually the first question after my boss has a list of potential offices is I will head up our meter connects, whether or not it's supported there. As far as the products piece, I mean, hey, if the sky's the limit, consumer grade hardware would be great if we could deploy it at our own homes as opposed to inside of our offices. But I think that more extensions of command into other automation providers would be nice, kind of going outside of the dashboard itself and being able to hook it in with some of our other orchestration, automation, and nascent AI platforms.
Said a lot of things there. What?
Yeah, would be helpful. Just being able to chat.
API?
Yeah, API.
There we go.
Yeah, I think some security orchestration could be, nice to see. And I think we have an opportunity in the data center to do a refresh. I think it'd be great if we had some data center options, right? So,
Are you the one data center analyst in the audience? Here we go. Okay. On the roadmap. So API, we just threw out an acronym. We'll go into a little bit of a speed round. What is your favorite networking acronym?
PEPGAC, probably.
Define that.
Problem exists between keyboard and chair.
There we go. Here we go.
I'm gonna have to just go with DNS.
Okay.
I don't know how it couldn't be WAP.
Okay. There you go.
There's even songs about it.
Oh, it's a family event. Okay. Next one. CLI or dashboard?
CLI.
CLI.
Yeah, CLI.
Dashboard or command?
This is a trick question. Probably command right now.
Command.
What command?
Command thing.
Yeah, I mean, how do you do one without the other? I don't know.
There we go. Okay. The network is down. Is it the network? Is it the ISP?
It's DNS.
CNS. There we go. Favorite acronym. There we go. Third answer.
It's the ISP.
It's the ISP.
I'll be harsh on this one. It's DHCP.
Good. Okay. More visibility or more automation?
Probably automation. I think that we keep, as I joke constantly, we keep buying a whole bunch of MRI machines, but we don't have enough doctors to interpret the results across the board. So the more that it's easy to automate things, the better everyone's life is going to be.
Yeah, I think I'm probably on the same track as that. That I think is definitely something that we're seeing in there. Yeah, like you can have a whole bunch of information, but what are you doing with it? And kind of like, how are you actioning it?
Yeah, I agree. We're oversaturated with data to have to decide on. It's better to have automation here.
Okay. Nick, I'll come back to you. You mentioned your boss, you get a new lease or you're looking at leases. One of the first questions they come to ask you is, can Meter support the space? Has it always been like that, or how did we grow into that relationship where, with layers within the company are supportive of the decision?
Yeah, it was actually a tenuous sort of relationship at first. I think that a lot of it was our trust, and probably for people out here who aren't Meter customers yet, there's a certain amount of control that you have at the network layer that you don't want to give up and give to someone else. And to the point where we kept all of our Iraqi gear in our office. It's still in the closet. I have to get rid of it. But it was there in years. It's a long years. Just haven't gotten around to it yet. But we kept it around just in case something went wrong and we had to roll back in a very, very hard way. And I think that we very quickly, it became getting everybody used to it, getting them used to the fact that we only need a coffee shop network. It's better to actually have the scope of support and have the response times that we could get from Meter. And apart from some instances of people doing dumb things on the network, which are self-inflicted, they're not necessarily due to you. It's been very solid since.
Yep. Buckley, I think, so the office is down the street practically. You're not here though. You're physically in another state.
Yeah.
Meter is eyes and ears for you in that building, across that network. What does that mean for?
I think that's also an advantage that we saw looking at the solution. As I mentioned, the team really wanted to have confidence in who was providing the solution. I do sometimes have to serve as the technical point of escalation for things, and not being on site can be a challenge there. I think the other advantage is you guys have come out several times physically, brought many resources onto the facility, and I think there was just a lot of comfort in that. So, and I have comfort in that. So it's been helpful. I think to your question earlier about the decision too, I think maybe my situation was a little easier in that I'm not at a tech company per se, right? And I think it's interesting when you explain what Meter's trying to do to people that aren't in the tech industry, it just makes a lot of sense to them. But you're trying to do that to people in the tech industry, they're like, that makes no sense.
You get our own way sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. Nico, for you, when we started the relationship, we were working with people that are still at Lyft, but there's been a bit of a shuffle. There's new bodies coming into the space now. How has that transition been within stakeholders for you and the interface between the two?
It's definitely interesting. You have a bit of a rotating kind of cast at times, and any kind of I think fast moving, tech company experiences those kinds of reorgs, right? And having a standard way in which you engage with one, partner, and that's really kind of what it feels like with Meter is it's a partner versus just another vendor or somebody else that we're talking with in an email thread, right? We have these syncs, they're real, they have content, they get things done, and for us having that standardized kind of way of going about getting things done, and also being able to standardized way of managing everything is the big win. I don't have to train 5 different people on 7 different workflows. This is how you interact with Meter. Here's the Meter run book, and it's really nice.
I remember actually helping Andy create that run book. Is what happens? Who do we reach out to? What's the alias? Who? Yeah.
The other part of that's beyond just the bounds of our office. When we need a low voltage vendor, when we need somebody to come in and actually do physical work in this space, it's not. There's been some instances where it's someone with an iPhone taped to their hand or their head trying to look for the exact cable, but we know that there's going to be someone that you've already partnered with and you vetted that can come into the space and actually resolve the issue as well. So that's been good for our expansion, is we don't have to do research on which vendors, what their reputations are. They are hopefully going to you to earn your business, and then you keep those relationships intact for us to take advantage of.
Yeah, candidly, I've never built a network before. Well, I've never built a production network before. How valuable is that?
That's very valuable. I think that just based off of the attitude now towards physical space, there's a lot less money and resourcing floating around for everyone. And when it comes down to taking the time to vet and select those people, if you choose poorly, it's real bad. But not having to do that is a huge, huge deal.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
It's funny, and Nick mentioned that. I guess looking back, I almost took it for granted because it was just so seamless that happened. And the reality is, if I look back in history, like that's usually a very painful process, and it just happened, right? Like everything was wired up, everything was patched, and we were good to go.
I mean, my experience in the networking world had been where I sold someone boxes, someone else had to deal with those boxes, and you were within that circle. The fact that we are building networks, this is what we do. And I think I took that for granted, and I'm glad to hear that actually makes a big difference for you all. Let's do a closing remark, a closing statement. These are a group of your peers, some analysts, some partners. If you could leave one thing with this audience, what would you leave them with? Can be about Meter, can be about networking. We want this to be a forum for networking. What would you leave them?
I guess I'll start. I think, and I've heard a little bit of it. It's kind of been a thread throughout some of the discussions here. Is it's really about outcomes, right? I think at the end of the day, everything you're trying to do is about outcomes, and people want to work, and they want a reliable network to work. And I think that the incentives need to be properly aligned with what we're trying to achieve, and I think that's what we've been talking about here.
It's funny you say that because we internally, we feel that the IT world is the most critical. We're objective, it's the most critical, but it's also like the least known. People walk in somewhere, they just expect stuff to work. And when it doesn't work, they go home or they throw a tantrum. They don't know what goes into it. So that outcome is what we're trying to deliver for your employees. And to help you deliver that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, you said it multiple times and you just nailed it. Is like people just want it to work, right? I want to be able to show up and I want it to work so I can work.
Right.
And yeah, like I think that's been the biggest win. It's that one-stop shop. I said it a couple of times. You can go to a single place, get everything done. And Meter really does. They just do it.
Cool.
In the zeitgeist of AI right now, the things that are actually measurably better, in my opinion, are the products that are helping humans make faster decisions and make better decisions with skill sets and technology and knowledge that they don't normally have. And so the companies that are making the product investments to help humans are the ones that I've generally put a little bit more faith in and purchased at enterprise level. And I think that that's kind of the underscore of MCommand and the direction that you all are going, is to help people make better informed decisions and to make their lives much, much easier.
Yeah, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great panel, and they will be here all day. So feel free, I'm going to volunteer your time. Feel free to chase them if you need them. But round of applause, please.